Hello, welcome to Holistically Speaking. I'm your host, Morella DeVoe, and today we are celebrating our 60th show. This is our 60th show on air, and so Kate and I thought this would be cause for celebration. At Holistically Speaking, our mission is to be the avenue through which the voices of holistic health reach you, our ever-expanding audience at the times you need it most. And today, our guest is Michelle Sicard-Durney. She is a massage therapist. Her practice is Mountain Muse Massage in Killington. And she does many things in massage, which she's going to tell us about. But our focus today, as you saw the intro of our show, is infant massage, newborn massage specifically. And I'm very excited to have Michelle with us today. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, of course, we've got babies here, so you're going to be showing us how to do this. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, how did you get into massaging babies?
Well, through my practice, I would do prenatal massage and work with expecting mothers. And I was always a little bit curious about that life that was, blossoming in that belly as we were, working through the massage. And so it was just kind of the natural next step in my practice.
Yeah. And so what do you do with mothers in the preparation for that baby? And then we'll talk about the babies themselves.
So letting mothers, do you mean as far as working with the infant massage or through?
Well, both. So you're massaging them.
So as they're pregnant, I'm usually seeing them throughout different stages of their pregnancy. Usually I'll see more moms near the end, where their bodies have just gone through a lot of changes and are getting ready to prepare for the birthing process.
Yeah.
So, it's providing relaxation for mom, taking tension off of sore joints,
Right.
And just helping them to relax a little bit.
Because their bodies go through so much.
So much.
And now you're teaching them how to massage their babies when they're first born. So what does this do for babies? What is it that you accomplish with this?
So for newborns specifically, they are healing from the birthing process. Their umbilical cord has been cut. They are their digestive is working on their own. They are trying to get assimilated to the world outside of their womb.
Right. And so our viewers are seeing some of the benefits of massage.
So the massage can help the baby as they assimilate. It will help to promote the bonding between mom and baby, or dad, or grandparents, or whoever it is that's caring for the baby. It will relieve gassiness and help the baby to digest their food better on their own. It can help them to get a more deeper and restful sleep. It will also help to boost their immune system. Their lymphatic system is right beneath the skin, and so you're stimulating that as well. And you're learning to comfort your baby, and you're also learning early communication and trying to understand the difference between their cries.
Oh, wow. So this is something that you're doing when they're first coming out of the uterus, like the first few minutes of life, you were telling me, right?
Yes, this newborn massage would be, up from a baby who's just moments old, once they are considered medically stable, and up to about like 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then they become more of a less overstimulated, less overwhelmed infant into a more stable infant. So.
And overwhelmed, I guess that's the perfect word to describe the shock that it must be for all of us when we first pop out. That it's just complete.
You're in the nice, dark, warm, comfort of the womb, and you come out to lights and sounds and touch, and the skin being one of the first organs that are developing in the womb is their first sense that's being developed, is their sense of touch.
So teach us a little bit about what you do and what parents or grandparents who are in the delivery room might do to this brand new human.
So, there's usually a little bit of nervousness with handling, the baby. And So I practice on the doll while mom or dad or whoever is working on their baby. It's important to have a environment that is warm, so the baby doesn't get cold. Not dark, but no bright lights or loud noises. The less stimulation for the newborn, the better. I will talk a little bit about the difference in cries. There's a cry that is not so severe. It's kind of a wah and a cry and a wah and a cry. But then there's another cry that escalates. It gets louder. There's a pause and it will get louder. That's usually, I need help. So it's important to understand some of the signs of distress from the baby. They could be arching their back. They could be spreading their fingers almost as they're crying. Avoiding eye contact with you. And these are all kind of cues that the baby just needs a little bit of a timeout.
Okay.
And they can just do some calming, lift the baby up to their shoulder, cradle the baby in their arms, just to try to calm the baby. So if the baby is crying, you're not going to continue, with the massage. You're going to try to get it calmed down. So you don't need many supplies, maybe a clean diaper for afterwards. You can use cornstarch on the skin, or you could use like a cold press vegetable oil.
Oh, okay.
You could use an almond oil or a grapeseed oil. Although you might want to be hesitant if you're using a nut oil in case there could be a nut allergy. Some of the baby oils are good, but they would have perfumes in it. But there's plenty of information out there. Or you don't have to use anything. You can do it over their clothes.
Right.
But for the sake of our demonstration, we have a baby who's in its diaper. And we are going to start off with keeping the baby wrapped. And it's just called the opening stretch. And you just take 2 of your fingers and you place them at, say, the low back of the baby's hips. And you would kind of just pull the baby forward, just lift and pull forward. So it's kind of like giving a rocking motion to the baby. And that's just an opening little stretch on their low back.
So back and low and
low back into the hip. Yep. And so you're just kind of bringing the fingers
the
down
spot.
To the diaper. Yeah.
Okay.
Right to the diaper. And you would do each stroke about 3 times.
Okay.
So then we'll start with the legs, and I will move to expose only one leg.
Here's the baby's leg. Okay.
And you would just secure the baby's foot with your thumb and between your fingers, and making almost like a ringing motion. You would take your hand and you would do this motion from the leg down to the foot.
Okay.
So
not a
you'd be
very
coming
long
from
leg.
the leg. No, no. And you would do that 3 times.
Okay. From the hip all the way
From the
down.
hip down, right. You're only going with the infants, or with the newborns, you're only going in one direction. It's from the head down.
Okay.
Whereas with an infant or an older infant, you could use a variety of strokes.
Okay. But a newborn, you're always from the head down.
We're looking to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve.
Okay.
Which deals a lot with our digestion and our ability to heal.
So we've done one leg, and now we're going to
and then you
do
do the other leg, and again you would just fasten, or you would just secure the foot between your fingers and your thumb.
Gotcha.
And you're working from top to bottom. And you just do a ringing motion.
Okay.
Now I would use maybe some kind of a lubricant on the leg, or cornstarch powder. But there's some areas that you don't need to use any lubricant at all for.
Okay.
Okay, and then I would move to the belly. So we would keep everything
covered
except for the belly. And you would always have one hand on the baby. They can always feel that base contact from you. And now these stomach strokes really help to reduce gas and help to get their digestive system moving. And there's one stroke that is called rocking the hara.
The hara.
And you would take the heel of your hand and you would place it on the side of the baby's belly. You would be avoiding any umbilical cord if it was there, and you would just press in slightly into the belly and then roll over with your fingers and then pull your fingers back. And you would be just sinking your fingers in a little tiny bit,
like
maybe.
Alternating sides, on one side with the...
So you rock that way and then you rock that way. So
so you rock them a little bit? Or?
You're using your hand to kind of rock the belly.
Oh, the belly, just the belly.
Yeah,
so
these
it's just
are
like
dolls,
stimulating,
so they're
like a little movement, gentle movement of the baby's belly.
And then there's also the spider crawl, and almost like a daddy long legs would, their little gentle legs, you know, you would kind of tap around, and you're just tapping the belly, and you're just, it's like a reflexive stroke. And then the last stroke, to do this stimulating, is around the belly, and you're just kind of making a spiral. Sometimes that could be a little overstimulating for a newborn, so you could go back to the spider one, but you would just be spiraling outward to the body, starting in and then going out.
And a question about hand temperature, because I'm feeling my hands are cold in this AC room. You know, you would want to warm up your hands, I imagine, before you're...
If you have an oil, you know, you would put an oil and really get your hands moving. That's another reason keeping your hand placed on them is good, because once you break that contact, your hands could get colder. So yeah, having a warm room or having your hands warm could definitely make a difference for the baby.
Okay.
The last abdominal stroke, and I think it's one of the most important ones, is we call it the I love you stroke. And it starts with 2 fingers at the bottom of the rib cage, and you make an I on the baby's left side. So it would be their descending colon.
Yeah.
And then the next stroke is an upside down L. So you would be going from the baby's right side to the left, and then down.
Yeah.
And then the last stroke is the upside down U, and you're going from the top over and then down.
Yeah.
And that's the abdominal area. And then you would move up to the arms.
And what we're doing here is stimulating the digestive system.
That is specifically,
getting that to kick in.
yes, that is specifically digestion. And you know, if the baby is tolerating that well and does not seem like it's getting really overstimulated, the last stroke that you could finish with on the abdominal is just taking 2 fingers and going all along the length. And you would do each stroke 3 times. And then you would cover, and then you do the same thing on this side. You know, and you're just really doing it gently. It's a gentle touch. You're making sure the baby is calm. You're listening to see, are they, you know, arching their back? Are they showing signs of discomfort?
Right.
And then we move right up to the arms. And it's the same thing. Again, this doll is not quite as flexible as the newborn would be, but you would secure the hand, and then using that ringing motion starting from top to bottom.
Okay.
And you would do that 3 times.
Right. Now we do the other arm. And what I am getting is just how sweet and bonding it could be, you know.
And it's just that time for just you and the infant, you know. You know, even dads really get a big benefit. Mom, whether she's nursing, it's like they automatically have that bonding time, and sometimes dads could feel a little left out in the process, and so this is a way for them to be able to bond with the baby as well.
Yeah.
The last part that we do before turning the baby over is the face. And this is really fun. Their faces are just so cute and little, and you could see how they respond to it. But again, you would keep one hand and you would place it on the baby's head, or maybe even behind the baby's head, because they have, you know, really weak, wobbly heads. So you would secure the baby's head with one hand, and then again, using 1 or 2 fingers, you would just be going across the forehead and down along the side. And you would do that on both sides. And you would just like trace their face. Go along their nose, under their eye, out to the cheekbone, on both sides. You know, and then the last thing that you would do would be to go around the lips. And you don't really want to go put your finger into their mouth, but you want to stimulate this area around the lips. This also helps to increase their appetite and their digestion.
And does it affect their ability to latch on at all?
Yes, because you're stimulating that. I don't know that it would affect their ability to latch, but it definitely is stimulating the area and giving them a sense of where their lips are and you know how they would move them, go about moving them.
Well, you know what it's making me think of too is I'm sure you're familiar with network chiropractic, that it uses very gentle touch, and just by touching, it directs nervous system attention. So when you're saying that, what it's making me think is just by touching around their mouth, it directs nervous system attention to that area. So it just like
and it just, again, the babies don't really have a sense of proprioception where they start and where they end. You know, at this point, they don't realize that they're moving their hands themselves. It's you know, just kind of involuntarily, you know, happening. So the last stroke that we would finish up with would be the back. And so you would have to take care into turning the baby over and making sure that their head is secure, and you would roll them over onto their stomach.
You do pull their arms out for a particular
I would
reason?
have, so that they can lay them out, or just more for comfort. You know, you want to make sure that their face, this doll's the head won't turn, but you want to make sure their head isn't in the covers or in a pillow, so that they, you know, will be able to breathe.
Right.
And you would just expose their back, and kind of the same that you did on the front, from the neck all the way down to the top of the diaper. You would be working. And you could just feel all of those little muscles moving around along their back, and it's really neat to be doing this as they're growing, because you start to feel their little muscles develop, and as they're working so hard to try to hold their heads up, or you know, it's really pretty fascinating. And then you could do the legs if you wanted to head back down to the bottom. You could do the legs again as well. But it really only takes 5 to 10 minutes, you know, to spend that time with your baby. And usually afterwards they might be a little hungry. You know, sometimes they might get hungry during the massage. You would stop the massage and tend to their needs, whether it's needing a diaper. If you're stimulating their digestion, you know, they might have to have a diaper change.
Right.
You know, there are studies that prove that even premature babies who have massage grow quicker and develop quicker, and they show less signs of being overwhelmed or overstimulated. So they've really, I've been doing this for about 10 years, but Baby's First Massage specifically has been around since the early 90s. I want to say close to 20 years.
Wow.
So they've really had a lot of time to do a lot of research and studies on it.
Wow, this is really incredible. And as you're talking about preemies, I have read that skin-to-skin contact with their mom specifically also helps to accelerate development. So I'm sure that the massage is just it's just an extra step. You know, I think as parents, we all touch our children, you know, or hug them. This is just giving a little more direction instead of just rubbing it back. You know, you're really paying attention to hands and feet, as well as the face. And well, the intention behind it is just so loving and nurturing that it just kind of takes a hug, you know, up 10 levels.
Exactly.
And so you teach this to expecting parents.
I also nurses, grandparents, practitioners, daycare, you know, anybody who is going to be involved with the care of a newborn.
Right. And so you've got a book and a video. Tell us about this. This is something that you give parents?
So when they take the class, they take with them the booklet, which is, they have really great pictures in there of the infants. And it talks a little bit more about their crying, and it goes into a little bit more detail about signs of stress or being overwhelmed. They get that booklet as well as a little 25-minute DVD. And
and I see it has pictures on it, and it's called The Little Book of Baby's First Massage. This is so sweet, and I'm sure that parents appreciate learning about all the different cry cues and all that. So I'm very curious about some of the things that you mentioned. So you were describing different cries and discerning what they are. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So, you know, and until I had my own children, it was difficult to understand that there was differences in cries. But there is definitely a marked difference between a cry where a baby needs something or they're in distress. It will get louder as it progresses, and there's less time for breathing. You know, the baby is in clear distress. There's another kind of a cry, though, that could be just, you know, maybe hungry cry, or I need a diaper change.
Just
that
slight
is
discomfort.
Yeah, you know, it wouldn't have that change in pitch. It wouldn't have that. You know, you can hear the excitability in their voice in the cry. And the cry is just one way to pick up on distress from the baby. You know, sometimes it's a physical thing. They will spread their fingers. You know, it's almost like a stop sign.
Oh, wow.
You know, or they'll arch their backs.
And that's some sort of expressing some sort of discomfort, like I'm
gas pain,
this
maybe,
is not...
or maybe they're really in discomfort. It's more of just, you know, feeling a little hungry.
Right.
You know, they're having some discomfort. You know, or they could just be overwhelmed. You know, with a lot of noise and bright lights and you know, these babies are anywhere from minutes to just days old, and they're still trying to, you know, get used to it all.
And so as the newborn grows into an infant and then a baby, does the massage change?
It does. The newborn massage, you don't use as a variety of strokes, and you're typically only going in one direction, from the top to the bottom, with the stroke. But with a infant, a child who's older, you can use a variety of different strokes. You know, it's more of just the ringing. You can use more where you're really kneading and kind of getting into their muscles a little bit more. They are more medically stable. You're not worried about umbilical cords, you know, or wounds healing, or just the birth trauma. They're beyond, you know, experiencing the birth trauma.
Right. And I have read and seen about exercising your baby. You know, it's like when they're still really little and they're not really crawling, but, you know, kind of mimicking some of the movements that they're going to get into. Do you combine that with a massage, like getting them moving, or?
You know, with the infants, I don't so much, but I find in my practice with adults and older children that range of motion included with the massage is really beneficial. But really at that age, they're so limber, you know, that you don't really need to incorporate that, and they do it on their own. They're moving everything constantly.
So do you teach parents at one-on-one, like a couple at a time, or do you do workshops? How do you
I've done both.
this?
I've taught an entire family where grandparents were available, and where you know, there was two babies. They had twins, so you know, one person had one baby, the other one had the other, and then we had practiced on dolls for the other participants. Yeah, so
it must have been such a lovely family event.
It's really, yeah, it's nice to be a part of that, and you know, what you're doing is really giving the family the gift of touch and communication, and you know, what a great thing for everybody to just feel a little more comfortable, you know, with touching the baby when they're so little and helpless.
Yeah, you were telling me a story, I can't remember who it was, someone whose husband was into kind of...
He was a mason, and he, you know, had a very physical job, lifted heavy stones. He had rough, calloused hands, and his wife, you know, said that if she did not put the baby into his hands, he wouldn't touch her because he was always so scared, or afraid. And so I offered to teach the class, you know, to them, and what a difference even, you know, I had him practicing on the doll at first, and then, you know, we moved to a leg, and it was amazing within, you know, a few moments time how much more comfortable he was.
Oh, that's so
you know, and then seeing him not even a couple weeks later, he was an old pro, changing diapers and feeding and, you know, not so scared.
And you have to think about the impact on their relationship and their bonding that had, so that's wonderful. What else would you like to say to parents or expecting parents who are watching right now?
You know, I took this class before I had children. And then even though I'd had this class and I had taught it at the time that my first was born, I was really overwhelmed and felt like I couldn't do it, or I didn't know what I was doing, or, you know, and eventually I recalled, you know, what I had been teaching people, and, you know, I started within moments with my own children, and today now, with my kids being 8 and 6, I have a great relationship with them, and sometimes without them even telling me what the problem is or what's wrong, I'm able to interpret. You know, it is just early communication, it's an early bond, and there's nothing better than to be able to have that loving, nurturing relationship.
Yeah, and you know what they say, I know I've read this and I would not be able to tell you where, but research saying that how healing the touch, how healing it is for a child to be touched by their parent. You know, it's like a mother's healing touch or a father's healing touch, and when you start so young, I'm sure you start developing this habit of just touching your children, and that will trigger their healing response.
And it's also an unknown benefit, or maybe something that's less pronounced, is the benefit that the person who's doing the touching is getting from it.
Absolutely. So you have some resources for our viewers, if you could share with us what they are.
The Mountain Muse MT is my website, and it's probably the best way to get in touch with me. The babiesfirstmassage.com, that is by Teresa Kirkpatrick Ramsey. That was who I took my class, my certification from 10 years ago. Her website is a great resource for the benefits of massage, and you can even get these videos, in addition to getting them through me, you can get them at her website as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is how people would contact you if they're expecting and saying, oh my gosh, I really want to learn this firsthand from Michelle. So wonderful. So thank you so much for being with us, Michelle. We have about a minute left. So is there one last nugget that you would want to say?
Just touch your babies.
Touch your babies.
Touch your babies. Love touching your babies, and you'll get just as much back.
Yeah, it really will develop your relationship, I'm sure. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll join us again next week. And if you have any suggestions or questions for shows, please email us at holisticallyspeakingtv@gmail.com. Have a great day.